right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We are here every night talking sports with you at 412-575-2600. That is the number to call. Hope you can do it tonight. We have a lot to get into. Tomorrow, it's the beginning of the hockey season around here as the Penguins open up against the Rangers, trying to end 2 years of not making the playoffs. Tonight, it did open with the Florida Panthers. They raised their banner. They got a win tonight over Boston, and Evan Rodriguez not only scored a goal, he also saved a goal. We'll have those highlights for you at 11. But Andrew Fillipponi of 93.7 The Fan, the PM team, joins me right now. You can hit us up also on Twitter at KDPump, at the Pony Express. And Andrew, Mike Tomlin spoke today and left the George Pickens situation still very much up in the air. I want to start there because even though the quarterback situation is always top billing, this Pickens situation is interesting as well. It seems to me like it's got to be involved in some sort of discipline, but he basically didn't say that. He kept with the snap management thing. What's your take on this? And next week against the Raiders, I got to believe he's going to be a big part of what they do. He has to be because they don't have many contributions from anyone else on the other side of George Pickens.
And that's why I think we're in this rut that we're in here, in this quagmire, because George Pickens is smarter than he lets on. He knows he can get away with this stuff, Bob, because what happens if you suspend him for a game? You're going to play Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, and some guy named Brandon Johnson? I thought it was Lee Mays when he went out there. I had no idea who that 85 was. I had no clue. Apparently, Bob, Brandon Johnson was able to jump on that moving train that Roman Wilson couldn't get on. I guess he's got more hobo experience than Roman Wilson does. I thought that was confounding. But he's got him over the barrel, Bob. And, people said, whoa, don't get a big receiver in here. George Pickens might blow his top. It's actually the opposite. He knows, he might get benched kind of in game like he did against the Cowboys, but they can't sit him down because he's too valuable. This isn't a Chooks Okorafor situation where he mouths off to Matt Canada and they're able to just plug in Broderick Jones, a first-round pick. There's nobody behind him. That's why they're linked to all these wide receivers who are available. And I think that gives George Pickens more license to act out, to lash out, and to run amok the way that he has lately.
Well, he hasn't run too much amok in terms of getting into the muck of the end zone because he has no touchdown receptions in 5 games. That's on him. He needs to be better. I understand that he may think that that the offense is not suited to get the ball to him, and I get that, but you also have to play the game however they see fit at this point. There's nothing else you can do, and his lazy route running is pretty obvious to anyone who watches him. Let me move on to this real quick because we've got a short time here tonight. We got a lot of people want to talk, Andrew, and that would be the quarterback situation because to me, Justin Fields has been fairly accurate all season long. I know in that game, the first half the other night, it was probably his worst half of the last 5, 6, 7 quarters he's played. But I also like what he's been able to do, and I find it difficult to think that Russell Wilson will come in here Sunday and play. Did you get the feeling today that is a possibility? It sounds to me like they're going to let him go for a week, see how it goes, and maybe the following week.
Yeah, I thought it was slim to none with Wilson because Tomlin said he's going to start tomorrow with the second team and made comments like, well, if he can pull it off, making it sound like it's going to take a lot to convince him to play. I think he'll be more than the emergency quarterback. I think he'll be the backup. And I think if Justin Fields struggles, we could see Russell Wilson come into this game against the Raiders. But I think this is Waterloo for Justin Fields. I think this is his last shot here to win over Mike Tomlin on a more permanent basis. And if he struggles, I think we will see Russell Wilson. If he wins and plays well, then I think they'll continue to kick the can down the road.
I also think there are not a lot of receivers getting open, and that's a problem for any quarterback that you may have there. But on top of that,
and did you hear what Roethlisberger said? Ben said, perfect pass to Connor Hayward.
Take Ben's. I thought the same thing.
I'll take Ben's 2 cents and yours too, Bob. You've watched so much football.
But he got both
so
hands on it, didn't he? I mean, Hayward got both hands on it. So it's I realize he's a tight end who's going down the field. But at the same time, it's a play that a professional athlete in that situation has to make. But also, real quick, the run game. It has made this even worse because they're not getting anything out of Najee Harris. He doesn't seem to have the vision to get to certain holes that maybe a Warren and a Patterson can. Those guys aren't going to play again, and you're going to see more of probably Jonathan Ward and Shampklin. But Mike Tomlin has always been, as you said last night, a one running back kind of guy. That's how he started this. Why not be one running back with Najee Harris as opposed to those two?
Well, I thought he made a comment today about his offensive line and pretty much either excused their bad play or, take it a step further, complimented them on how they've played so far this year, which I think puts it back on the running back. Honestly, Bob, I've heard enough smart people say that the system here does not fit Najee Harris, to which I would say back, Arthur Smith, how about you change your system a little bit here? Don't be so rigid. If you've got a running quarterback and you've got a pocket quarterback and the running quarterback gets injured, you don't keep all the running plays in there. You have to change it up. That's part of being a good coach, is adapting and adjusting. I don't think the playbook for the Steelers offense was the same thing when Duck Hodges went in for Ben Roethlisberger. So why in the world are you trying to put a square peg into a round hole with Najee Harris? If you're a great offensive coordinator, Bob, cater your play calling to the players you have. Go to more of a power run game with Najee Harris, and let's see if it works.
We got to go to a break. What's going to work with us tonight? Your phone calls, 412-575-2600. That is the number to call. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're here nightly on KDKA Plus and on most nights 93.7 The Fan. Call us. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from ML Football. Robert Saleh, if you heard, lost his job today out of the blue, but he can take this to the bank. Literally, he's going to make $20,000 a day for the Jets for about the next 2 years. We talk about Bonilla money. We talk about Rick DiPietro money. How about $583,000 a month, or $134 a week, or $19,000 a day, or $7.99 an hour? I mean, it's pretty amazing. And this happened. Yet, Andrew, the New York Jets are in position, with a win next week, they would be 3-3. There are a lot of teams that would like to be 3-3. So I'm wondering, this has to be manipulated a little bit by Aaron Rodgers, knowing that it seemed like Nathaniel Hackett was going to be out of a job, or at least out of the play calling this week. And maybe Aaron Rodgers said, I'm not having that. It happened too quickly for me, and he was escorted out of the building. It had to be something sudden, don't you think?
Well, we saw right from the very beginning, these two guys were oil and water. Remember that game? I believe it was against the Bills on Thursday, or not the Bills, against the Patriots on Thursday night. Aaron Rodgers, yes. So, and also remember, Bob, Robert Saleh said that his vacation when Aaron Rodgers went to Egypt, that it was not an excused absence, and they fined him for going there during mandatory minicamp. These two guys never meshed, and right now you see the power of a quarterback, even though he's 40 years old, more valuable to the Jets than a head coach. They've had 18 head coaches, Bob, since Chuck Noll was hired, and one of those guys was Joe Walton. You remember Joe Walton with the Jets.
Absolutely.
18. The Steelers have had 3, and the New York Jets have had 18. So they're the opposite of the Steelers when it comes to continuity and stability.
And the Jets have still not caught the Browns for as many quarterbacks as they have, and they'd like to get rid of the one they have, but they can't. All right, 412-575-2600. Let's get to our number one Cochran Go One Better caller of the night, and that's going to be John in Cranberry, who leads us off here tonight. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Bob and Andrew. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So, lots going on this time of year with playoff baseball, football. But what I want to talk to you guys about is it's opening night for the Penguins tomorrow night. So there were a lot of issues last year with that power play, 3-on-3 hockey, even the goaltending. So I wanted to get both. I know it's hard to predict in October, but I wanted to get both yours and Andrew's position on the state of the Penguins, and do you think that they will break the 2-year playoff drought in 24-25? Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, and thank you for the call. Appreciate it. It's a good one. I think they will, by virtue of the power play. It cannot be 15.3% as it was last year. That's 30th in the NHL. They're much better than that. That simple change in the number would, because I think they missed the playoffs again by 2 points or something. That would make that possible. 3-on-3 has to get better. Goaltending's not as bad as you think. It was 13th in the NHL overall. Tristan Jarry has to get better, but yeah, I think so. Although I do, Andrew, think that the Eastern Conference is very, very competitive.
Bob, I don't think they've gotten any better. What move did they make this offseason to make themselves better? They lost Jake Gensel at the trade deadline, and I like the way Bunting played. but they took a guy that was capable of scoring 40 goals off their roster, and they didn't replace him. You brought in Kevin Hayes. Are you kidding me? We're talking about guys, bottom six players. Achari coming back healthy. That doesn't move the needle for me at all. Grzelcyk on the blue line. Same goaltending tandem. Nedeljkovic got hot, but overall, I don't have faith in that tandem big picture. The Devils, I can guarantee you, are going to be much better this year and will finish ahead of the Penguins in the standings. I also think the Rangers and Hurricanes are better. So best case scenario, they're fourth in the Metro, and fourth place isn't even guaranteed to make the playoffs with the way the wild card ranks. I don't think they're better than the Panthers. I don't think they're better than the Bruins. I don't think they're better than the Maple Leafs. I'm not sure they're better than the Ottawa Senators, to be honest with you. That's a very young and up-and-coming team.
Or the Buffalo Sabres. Let's throw them in there. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year, too.
Right. So make the playoffs. I think they'll be lucky to have 90 points again. I hate to say it, but I didn't see a team that improved at all this offseason.
Well, I'm relying on the guys there and maybe David Quinn changing around the power play, because I still think these games come down to 1 or 2 goals, differences, and the power play makes a colossal difference. They gave up a ton of shorthanded goals, not to mention they didn't score on the power play. They have too much talent not to. So I'm looking at that as a reason. And I also hope.
And Brian Rust hurt to start the year.
Well, he'll be back. He's only like day to day. Nedeljkovic is going to be back soon, but they brought up Bloomquist. I hope he plays a little bit to see at the beginning. But a guy like Rutger McGroarty, a guy like Drew O'Connor, those are younger guys I want to see more minutes to. I don't want to see just 4 minutes a night when they play. All right, let's move on. We got John in Oil City who joins us next right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. What's up, John?
Hey, Bob, thanks for taking my call. I just have one question for you. Why is it every year we're talking about the Steelers having to babysit a wide receiver? It's getting old. What do you think about that?
Andrew, I saw a tweet you put out. It was a good one. All the divas that we've had here over the last, although I should say that Juju Smith-Schuster had a really good game last night, and I think with a good quarterback, it makes everybody better. He had 7 for 130. But to his point, is it just one of those things with wide receivers that they always want the ball and they complain? It seems like you go around the league. It's not just here. It's everywhere.
Well, I think every team has an episode with a guy. I mean, look at the Bills' decision to move on from Stephon Diggs, for example. But what I don't understand is why, when one of those guys leaves, he gets replaced by a new diva wide receiver. Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. It keeps going and going and going. Who's going to be next? Roman Wilson because he's in the doghouse and Mike Tomlin won't put him on the field? I don't know, Bob. It seems like they go out of their way to target guys who are high on talent but have red flags character-wise, and then we act surprised when it happens. The book on George Pickens, this isn't a surprise to people that scouted him at Georgia. They knew that he was a potentially great player, but he was a ticking time bomb in terms of his character, football character, not off the field character, but football character, and we're seeing that manifest itself again. Every time we think we're done with this with George Pickens, Bob, I bet he has a great game against the Raiders, and we'll say, look, it worked. And then they'll have a 2-game losing streak. He doesn't get the ball, and we're back to square one.
Yeah, and I remember last year how he pretty much said it was just a business decision not to make a block. I mean, last week he fumbled at the 5-yard line. He dropped the pass. I mean, if you're going to make that, don't be down on them. Be down on yourself. That's the way I would tell him. You got to make better plays when you get the opportunity.
Also, you're not always open, contrary to the eye black he had on.
I agree. All right, let's go out to Glenn in Dormont. Hey, Glenn, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How about you?
Good, thanks.
Hey, I just got two statements to say here, and I'll let you answer them. I'm thinking Pickens is just another Antonio Brown. I think Brown.
I'll take him. If he's an Antonio Brown, I'll take that.
With the attitude and everything?
No, the 6 straight years of almost 15 to 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns. Well, that's the
problem. You get the attitude of AB, but you don't get the production, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, but with AB, it took a while. He was really good and really committed, and then everything changed. Let's go to Josiah in San Antonio, Texas. Hey, Josiah, what's up?
Hey, Bob. Hey, Andrew. 2 quick points. I think it was stupid when you look back on it when the Steelers traded Deontay Johnson because it really makes them thin at the receiving core. If I'm them, I want to see if I can get him back possibly, and I know they got Dante Jackson back, but at the receiving core it's thin. And real quick, I think it's stupid. If they let Najee Harris walk next year because they didn't pick up his option, we've seen this before with James Conner. putting in a second running back doesn't really necessarily make them better in their run attack. I think it's stupid to let Najee walk after that.
No, I don't. I think James Conner's a totally different kind of player, and I like what he's been able to do since he left Pittsburgh. Do you?
Oh, my God, it's been a renaissance for him. He averaged 5 yards a carry last year, ran great against the Steelers in that game at Heinz Field, and is picking up right where he left off, 4.6 yards a carry this year. He's 7th in the league in rushing. I tip my cap to what James Conner has done there. Yeah, I'll take my chances. Najee does not find it somewhere else. Worrying about what he does in the next chapter is not going to scare me into giving him a contract extension given the lack of production we're seeing from him. I agree with what Roethlisberger said about the situation. Why continue to bang your head against the wall? Either change the rushing scheme for Najee or take him out of the game, or don't run the ball as much and open up the offense, Bob, and throw it more.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
They did that drive when Kyle Allen came in. That worked, using that middle of the field.
Middle of the field, one pass. There we go. We got to take a break here, Andrew. But this tweet from Michael Andreski, get this up on Twitter at KDPump at the Pony
Michael
Express.
Andretti?
Yes, no, Andreski. He says, where will Holstein transfer to next year? We'll talk about that and more when we continue right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. KDK News at 11 starts in about 6 minutes. Ken, what do you got tonight?
Bob, tonight some Pittsburgh natives down in Florida are explaining why they're not evacuating ahead of Hurricane Milton, plus why the county exec says there's no alternative to raising Allegheny County property taxes. And the change in vision for Market Square now rejected, all coming up at 11, Bob.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Quickly, Andrew, and Michael Andreski wants to know about Holstein next year. Obviously, it's going to cost more money than it is now, given where the path he's on. Can Pitt make that happen, or do you think it will end up elsewhere?
I think it all depends on what happens with Cade Bell. I think if this stays on this path that it's on now, he's going to get offers from SEC, maybe even Big Ten schools to be their offensive coordinator, maybe even a school, FCS, MAC, to be a head coach. And so how does Pat Narduzzi navigate that with his offensive coordinator? I think that'll go a long way in determining what happens with Eli Holstein. And he's been so good. These are the games Pitt has had trouble with in the past, Bob. They're now ranked. They're 5-0. They've got prosperity. They've got to handle it. They've got to be able to deal with it. You know, with the Kenny Pickett year, you had the loss to Western Michigan that derailed things. Okay, you've got this high right now. Continue. Don't coast on it. Play a solid game against Cale coming all the way from Northern California here on Saturday.
Michael from Beaver Falls, real quick, Michael, what's your point? Michael.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Andrew. How y'all doing?
Good. What's up?
Thanks for taking my call. The Steelers are still going to win the next game as long as they keep Fields. And you guys are spot on your take on the Steelers tonight. You guys know what's going on.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I think it's going to be Fields. Do you, Andrew?
Yes, and I think Sunday's a very tricky game, even with the Raiders' quarterback turmoil. I hate 4 o'clock games against the Raiders on the road, Bob.
Yeah, they got to win last year with some big plays to Calvin Austin, but they're going to need some of those from George Pickens maybe this week. We'll see, or maybe Calvin Austin again. Pony, thanks as always. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow right here, same time, same station, 10:35. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.